Hi there, I'm back. Today I'm in downtown Johannesburg to discover some of the city's lesser known historical buildings and landmarks. I'm doing a walking tour and it's 5 hours long, so this is only a fraction of the experience. First stop, the Rankies-Laagte Triangle, where it all began.
When they realized they needed a town, they needed to find a piece of land that didn't belong to anybody, because farmers didn't want to sell land to the government because they could get cheaper prices if they sold privately. So they sent 3 town surveyors to the area, one called Johannes Rissik, one called Johannes Joburg, and one called Josias de Villiers. Now that is why the town is called Johannesburg, after the 2 Johanneses, but I'm not sure why they forgot about de Villiers. There's not even a de Villiers street. Poor guy. Anyway, when there was a bit... Really?
Yeah.
I retract that statement immediately. There is a de Villiers street.
There is.
Yeah, I'll go find it. So this beacon signifies one corner of the triangle. So that's Commissioner Street. You go up Commissioner Street past Carlton Centre, right through Hillbrow, almost where Joe Slovo crosses from the M2. There's a street called End Street. That is because it is the end of the triangle. And then if you go up End Street and up this street called Diagonal Street, because it is the diagonal leg of the triangle, right around Park Lane Mediclinic, there's another beacon like this because it is the last corner of the triangle. So this is why it's called the Rankies-Laagte beacon. The town was first called Rankies-Laagte, so you would have Rankies-Laagte here. On the other end of Commissioner Street you would have Marshalltown, and then later on they were amalgamated, and then they started calling the town Johannesburg. You see where we're standing now is just Johannesburg. There's no suburb name, nothing.
Yeah.
So it is like proper.
Oh, okay.
You're not going to get more Johannesburg than this.
So that place in front of the shops where you just stopped is basically where this area is one corner of the triangle where Johannesburg was founded. So it's the real, kind of like the center of Johannesburg, the real Johannesburg, other than, the suburbs and stuff. So this is Chancellor House, an outdoor museum.
It is where Nelson Mandela and Oliver Tambo had their law offices in the 1950s. That is also why you have that statue of Nelson Mandela over there. It's called Nelson Mandela Shadow Boxer, because he was an avid boxer in his youth. If you've ever been to the Mandela capture site in the KZN Midlands, there is a really big installation that as you walk towards it, Nelson Mandela's face becomes visible that looks like just random poles. Anyway, it is by the same artist called Marco Cianfanelli. He's a really quite a famous Italian sculptor. So this behind me is a bit of an outdoor museum detailing some of Nelson Mandela's life and some of the struggle history. And this building, Chancellor House, was in a really dilapidated condition. But then in 2015 they actually cleaned it up and restored it and did this little outdoor museum.
Okay, so I'm doing exactly what I said you must not do in the middle of downtown Johannesburg, which is pull out your vlogging camera or your phone. But it's a Saturday, so it's quite quiet today. As you can see, there's no hustle and bustle, so it's totally fine.
Slow down, lady, I want to see. The pink and purple one. As you can see, it's called Carmel House. It was built 1897. It's one of the oldest remaining Victorian buildings in the city. So there was this trend in Joburg, if you don't want your building anymore, if you need a bigger building, you just demolish and build a new one. So it's really hard to find Victorian period buildings in the city. So what's really neat about this building, It's been an Indian area from the outset, so you would have shops on the ground level, and then people would live above their store in the flats. So I wanted to say the other day, but the other day before lockdown last year, an elderly gentleman came down the steps from the flats, and I spoke to him, and he said he was born in this building in 1931, and he lived here his whole life, or he's still living here his whole life, which is pretty cool. And the shops are handed down through the generations, so in each generation one child would be earmarked to continue the shop, and they would be trained to continue the shop in a profitable manner. Like for instance, the bookshop on the corner that we're going to pass, Lombarda Books, it's been in the same family since 1921. Pretty cool.
So how many of these tours do you do?
Oh, it's complicated.
Is it every Saturday or?
It's every Saturday, so this is like a half a day tour more or less, and then we have a full day tour.
Still downtown?
Yes,
Okay.
like 10 kilometer urban hike. And then we have another tour focusing more on the landlords and the personalities that shape Joburg, which includes a full tour of the Rand Club, and then Fordsburg, which is mostly on a Sunday, and then Pretoria once a month.
So behind me here is the City Hall, and as you just mentioned just now, there's a 6,000 piece organ in there, but unfortunately we're not allowed to go inside, so we're not able to see that other than the outside of the building. It's a very beautiful building though. And one of the ladies that's in the group just mentioned that when they were children, this used to be where they used to have their matric dance, so they'd all pull up to the front, all dressed up to graduate from high school.
Nowadays it's not just a gentleman's club, it's a gentlemen's and ladies club. So yeah, this building was completed 1903. It has the longest bar counter in, I think, the southern hemisphere. It's 21 meters long, so it's quite impressive. So we are going down to James Finlay's shop in the basement, and if you want to grab a coffee or a beer or whatever in the bar, you're more than welcome. And then from here we're going to go to Standard Bank to get into the Mineshaft I promised you.
The Rand Club for me was a highlight. Not until just about 3 years ago you had to dress up to be let in, but they have since become more accommodating by allowing casual wear. Oh, so this is the longest bar.
This is a 21 meter bar.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes, this is it. It has to be it. The James Finlay bookstore sells rare and collectible books as well as other collectible items such as rare historic maps and antique posters. What else do you have other than coffee? I'm not sure how long we have. What else do you have other than
Soft drinks.
But it's just drinks at the moment.
There's food as well.
I don't know how long we have. Do you have something like a muffin?
And I think there's scones.
Okay, I'll have a coffee with a scone. A cappuccino
Yeah.
with a scone. All right, thank you.
Oh my God, look at that. And we're out.
is this place called?
Mineshaft.
I didn't hear what you said this place is called.
This is where the first mineshaft. I have to go in and look. It's too nosy. Okay.
Oh, you're in front of the rock face and tunnel entrance to one of Ferreira Gold Mine Company's original mine workings, which drops some 1,000 meters below where you are standing.
How many meters?
1,000 meters.
Yeah.
But I still don't understand, is this the first mine ever, or anyway, she'll let us know.
Alright, so this is a Ferreira's mine stope. As you can see, we are under Standard Bank. When Standard Bank bought this lot in the 1980s, they were really surprised to find mine tunnels here. I don't understand why, because it is the site of the old Ferreira's mine, hence tunnels. So they filled everything in with concrete, but they kept this little reminder. So the story of gold starts in 1886. As with most things in Joburg, there's an official narrative and an unofficial narrative that makes a little bit more sense. So I'll give you both narratives of the discovery of gold, then you can decide which one you like. So the one you'll find in history books says, on a Sunday in 1886, an Australian called George Harrison walked over from where he was living in present-day Strubens Valley over to his friend George Harrison, who was living on Langlaagte. By the way, I'm not making this George's thing up, it's the truth. So as he was walking over, he saw this piece of rock, which is now called the main outcrop of the reef. So it's basically where the gold reef was on surface level. And he saw this rock and he thought, okay, it could contain gold deposits. He had all of his gold mining equipment with him, so his pan and his chisel and his crusher. So right then and there, he crushed everything. He did that pan swivel thing, and he got a teaspoon of gold in his gold pan. Now, all of the history book says a teaspoon of gold, but a teaspoon of gold is a lot. But if they say it's a teaspoon, it's a teaspoon. Okay. And then he went and he went to get his friend George Walker, and they sort of explored the reef and saw that it might actually be payable gold. Yeah, that's story number one. Story number two says on this fateful Sunday in February of 1886, George Walker, who was living on Langlaagte, was taking a stroll through the veld, and he saw this piece of rock. He went home and he got all of his stuff, and the rest of the story with a teaspoon of gold happened. So be that as it may, whichever one you want to believe, on a Sunday in 1886, the main outcrop of the reef was found by a guy called George. That is what we need to remember. So at surface level, the rocks are easy to crush and mine because most of the minerals have been weathered away already. But in about 1890, they started encountering those rocks. Right, those rocks are really special. They are the Witwatersrand supergroup, the only geological structure of its kind in the world. Now, if I illuminate it, right, and you use your imagination, you would see the richest gold ore in the world. The problem is that you can't see the gold. So if you look around those light gray pebbles, there's some shiny bits and pieces.
Oh, yeah?
If you can't, then imagine it, because they are really hard to spot. So theoretically, if you, this part has some concrete in it to keep it stable, but theoretically, if you chisel off a piece of the rock, you will find gold. Please do not do that. I still want to come back here. You might not, I do. But feel free to take a look around. The photos is basically starts with surface level mining over there, and as you look at the photos, it becomes more deeper and deeper and deeper level mining.
Small one's going to go first, and then you can slow down. The bigger one.
The last stop was at the Johannesburg Culinary and Pastry School, where we had lunch prepared by the students. we're stopping for lunch after my 2 big scones. Oh my goodness.
Just force yourself.
This is like crazy.
Or just
I thought
drink.
that was the actual stop when we stopped at the Rand Club.
No, it's just a snack.
Oh my goodness. And this is the Johannesburg Culinary School, right?
This is where you train.
I really thought that was a stop. And that is it. That is my downtown tour done. The tour is done by a company called Time Traveler Adventures. I'll leave their details in the description box. Otherwise, that's it from me. I've got to get to my next appointment. Thanks for watching. See you next time.